Somehow, and I believe that's true, just going through the alumni list of the IMDb Bottom 100, there's only one Steven Seagal movie I've noticed that's broken into the Bottom 100. And that movie is On Deadly Ground. This is an action movie with a big message in it. Big old environmental message in there. And boy, do they... Well, they're really confused about the message to start with, because there's a bunch of oil fires in this movie. That's like what it's about. There's oil rigs that explode and leak and all this kind of stuff. And there's even more explosions to fix them. Like, that can't be good for anything, right? So, there's a lot of explosions and killing, but also the environment needs help. Like, at the end, there's like a solid number of minutes of a scene talking about the environment after the plot's over. So in this movie, Steven Seagal is playing a fixer who fixes oil rig fires and stuff, who works for an oil company run by Michael Caine, who is hilarious in this movie. We get a bunch of other hilarious... There are some really hammy performances in this movie that really made me happy. Yeah, Michael Caine's hamming it up all over the place. He's like the most unlikable person ever. Steven Seagal is... This is kind of vague. I think he's supposed to be an Alaskan native of some sort. He seems to know the people who work on the rigs, the common folk, yet he works for Michael Caine, and they all hate Michael Caine, but he seems okay with them for a while until he tries to murder him. Yeah, like, Steven Seagal is like one of those guys in movies like this. He is gonna, like, he's the only badass allowed. So for whatever reason, he's also like a super special ops person, and he does a bunch of man-trapping later, where he sets a bunch of traps in the woods for people following him. It's never explained how he can do that, apart from, I guess he was in wars or something. Whatever, I guess. So, he's the super badass, as he is in any movie, even if he's a cook. In this one, he's a oil man. Anyway, he wears a bunch of tassel-y garments, I guess is the way to put it. He's always wearing really weird, like, vests with, like, leather tassels and stuff to really drive it home that he's definitely a native, guys. Yeah. So Michael Caine has a bunch of goons under him. First and foremost of which is John C. McGinley? Yeah, whatever. The guy that played Dr. Cox on Scrubs, and I featured him already in Car 54, Where Are You?, is sort of his go-to security guy. And he is such a cowardly... For the head of security for his company, he is so jittery. Like, he's constantly, like, when he hears a noise, he's going to shoot a gun at it. Like, that's not what you want in a security guy. But, oh yeah, he's made out to be a badass, though, and he's, like, really dangerous or whatever. Later on, we get R. Lee Ermey shows up in this movie as, like, a contracted assassin guy to kill Steven Seagal, and he has this great monologue where he talks about how badass Steven Seagal is, where this guy's a professional, he's not just some person we're hunting down, I love this guy's the best, he's the bestest best. Kind of that sort of thing. He's just talks, so he's basically his hype man. He's talking about how great Steven Seagal is for a whole scene. Later on in the movie. But yeah, we get a handful. R. Lee Ermey really plays it up. John C. McGinley, whatever he's doing, he's playing it to the fullest. Michael Caine is hammy as he possibly can be. And Steven Seagal's just Steven Seagal. He's very flat and just beats people up. So yeah, they try to kill Steven Seagal, and Steven Seagal's not happy about that and decides to turn on him because reasons. They basically take him out to this oil rig, say it's on fire, and then he goes in and there's a big bomb, and his mentor is murdered there. They really kill that guy dead. They torture him to try and reveal some sort of secret he's leaked out about how lazy they were in designing this massive new oil rig. If they don't get it operational within like 30 days, then apparently it reverts back to the natives, and Michael Caine doesn't want that. This guy leaked some materials that would have compromised it, so they killed him. They didn't actually get the stuff back from him because Steven Seagal finds it later. Anyway, Steven Seagal beats up a bunch of people. At one point, Steven Seagal is nearly murdered and rescued by natives and has a really weird, like, vision questy thing where there's a bear that he fights. He has some hallucinations, and that goes on a long time. An excessively long time. He has a cave sequence with an old wise woman and a young woman and whatever's happening. I guess this means something. He's apparently the chosen one to save the world from oil. Whatever. So he comes back and is like repaired. John C. McGinley shows up at the Inuit village and kills a bunch of people. That makes Steven Seagal very angry. Um, so Steven Seagal comes up with this invasion plan to destroy this massive new oil rig thing. He shows up and just beats the crap out of everybody, kills a bunch of people, and all the bad guys die these massively gruesome deaths. Arlie Ermy gets shot apart by Steven Seagal. John C. McGinley blows up in a car fire that explodes. There's also another B villain underneath Michael Caine who's like his publicist, who's constantly trying to spin things and is really cold. She also gets super dead in a massive explosion thing. Oh, that's what happened. All right, she dies in the massive car fire explosion. John C. McGinley is killed with helicopter blades. You see, anyone who's bad in this dies miserable deaths. And of course, Michael Caine's the most important one. So Michael Caine, at the very end of the movie, gives up. Steven Seagal, you've won. You win. Natives keep their stuff. I give up. I surrender. You've beaten me. So Steven Seagal responds to this by tying him up and then slowly dipping him into a pit of oil to die horribly. Very heroic, I guess. Justice, maybe. Whatever. And after all this is solved, he goes back and then delivers a lengthy speech about the environment and about how bad things are. Which, I mean, that's not untrue. Environmentalism is important. But, not so much in this action movie, particularly in how much they really clearly don't give much of a shit about the environment in this, with the constant oil fires and explosions and all that sort of stuff. On Deadly Ground, if it were paced a little better, because there are these lengthy sequences after they try to kill him, when he goes on his vision quest, the entire time he's in the Inuit village, this whole stretch of time takes a long time. It's really boring. But if you supercut this movie really down to its pieces, this is a hilarious good time. To just the sequence of him being chased through the woods with his man traps, and him invading the thing at the end, his dramatic oil fire explosion where he solves the thing at the beginning and has this really dramatic walk away from the explosion and everybody else ducks except for Michael Caine and they just stare at each other. There's a bunch of excessively dramatic moments like that. If you found a highlight video of On Deadly Ground, watch that and get a good solid maybe 10 minutes out of this movie and then just cut out the rest, and this is fun. It's a fun bad movie if you cut it down. Or, what I actually did for this movie through the super dull parts, I ran it at 2 times speed. When you have a disc, I think on the PS3, you can run it at 2 times speed and the audio still happens, but it happens kind of fast. So you can just, what amazed me is, at 2 times speed, it still just lingers on massive landscape shots and just sits there. It's so boring. This is a very boring movie, and I'm really on the fence about recommending it. But the parts that are ridiculous are so ridiculous, and John C. McGinley and Michael Caine and Arlie Ermy are so over the top, and Steven Seagal is so forgettable and boring, like he is in every movie. Yeah, it's so silly. It's so very silly. There's also this the most, dumb probably scene in this movie. Early on, Steven Seagal's in a bar fight, and this guy's challenging him. And they challenge each other to slaps, with the hands. And Steven Seagal absolutely destroys this guy. And then at the end, he's something why do men fight? Why do men not learn? And it's well, you have to give them time. This excessively dramatic revelation with this guy who you just beat the crap out of. And he's why can't men learn from each other? And he's it takes time. Time. And it's just so out of left field and so bizarre. It's hilarious. If you can just find that clip, that's weird. It's so weird. The whole slap fight between them. Every time that Steven Seagal wins at slaps, he gets to punch him, a free shot. And he just punches the crap out of him at the end. It's why do men fight each other? And just the response of time. It takes time. It's just, wow. This movie. Find clips of this movie and watch them, but don't watch the whole movie. On Deadly Ground.
In this land of frozen beauty, where a proud people make their home, Aegis Oil is making a killing.
The people here want to talk about the poisons in their environment.
If Aegis 1 is not online and operational in 13 days, then the oil rights will revert back to the Eskimos, and that is not going to happen.
We're done!
But there is hope. And now, he's here. Steven Seagal is on deadly ground.
You're an oil man.
But I put out the fires. I stop spills. We are being lied to by some of the most sophisticated people on Earth.
I know we've had our disagreements.
How much money is enough?
I don't need that kind of problem right now.
Get rid of the problem.
You mean mercenaries?
Now this land has a friend.
In you, I've seen a great spirit.
These people have a warrior.
Did you beat up on this little native man?
And this corporation
Find me a buddy or find me the man.
has a big problem.
I mean, who the hell is this guy?
I'd say he's company.
Company?
CIA.
Whatever he is, he's a damn problem.
Steven Seagal,
Time to move out.
Michael Caine,
He'd need a miracle to stop us now.
Just gonna reach out and touch somebody here.
on deadly ground.